You're listening to a Roddenberry podcast.
So the question of the night is, who on Discovery will get silver eyes first after passing through the Galactic Barrier? Think about that, because it's 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that must mean it's Mission Log Live. I'm Norman Lau, and thank you for joining us.
I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's fine. I threw you a curveball.
I'm Holly Amos.
You are Holly Amos. Thank you for being here, Holly Amos.
And tonight we're going to discuss Star Trek Discovery Season 4, Episode 10, The Galactic Barrier. Oh my God. It's there.
That's my silver eyes. 1960.
That's your silver eye. Okay.
Batusi move.
Get your questions and comments ready and give us a call. You know how to do it. Click on the Zoom link or use the one tap from your smartphone or call us at 669-900-6833 and enter the meeting code and the password. And then you'll be in the Earl Green room.
Does your dad just wait until the show starts? Because your dad is number one again in Facebook, which is fantastic. I think it's amazing.
So my dad is retired. He's a retired master auto technician, not a mechanic, master technician.
Yeah.
They're like top level. So he, still does a lot around the house to help like maintain, but he has a lot of free time. So I know that my parents watch this on the big flat screen. Like my dad feeds the puts the feed through the big screen.
So if he's at home doing technician stuff, does that make him domestic household technician?
I get he still, he still has an area where he can do work on cars. Like my parents paved in one of the side yards, and that's like my dad's side of the yard, and he still fixes stuff over there sometimes.
Good for you, Bob, and thank you for being here.
People,
and thank you for being number one.
He used to own an auto repair shop in Riverside for most of my life. My parents owned an auto, but they sold it when my dad retired. So
to do domestic housework technician stuff.
Now he one of the first projects that he did after he retired, my mother decided that she wanted to raise chickens.
Oh.
And my dad, who is admittedly not great at woodworking, built a really cool chicken coop.
Nice.
Yeah. So there's a really nice chicken coop in my parents' backyard, and my mom has 3 chickens.
Fresh eggs for everybody.
Yes,
speaking of
all day, every day. I don't think that they can even eat that many eggs. So
out there in the chat, who wants some free eggs? Talk to Bob Amos. We'll get you hooked up. That's what we do here on Mission Log. We talk about Star Trek and make sure that you get the freshest poultry this side of Riverside. So let's stay to everybody. We have obviously Bob Cosmos here. Hi, Cosmo. It's nice. It's always great in the chat to start off looking down the column here and seeing at least 2 Pauls already checking in. So thanks for the Pauls being here. Hello, Jane. Hello, Chris. Is that a third Paul, or is it just Paul's just populating the chat?
I lose count of the Paul. Are we up to 4 Pauls now?
It's possible. It's definitely we definitely have him on Discord, and we'll talk about that later. Dave Ketchy's here. Hey, Dave, how you doing? John Arminio, always good to see you. Cap Mike, what's happening, my man? Alan Cooley. Hello, Cooley. Everyone give the Cooley to Cooley. Dave, good to see you. I think we do have 3 Pauls here. Scott Palm. So many great, fantastic, regular listeners, regular supporters, and people that are ready to talk about this week's episode, because it's kind of neat. It's kind of a throwback type of title, but very obviously futuristic. We're going to talk about that later in our notes. But I want to let everyone else here know that coming up this week on Mission Log, excuse me while I do my hair thing. Coming up this week on Mission Log, we engage with Deep Space Nine listeners with a very special supplemental done in the style of Mission Log Engage. Now, if you're not familiar with Mission Log Engage, that's the show that we do exclusively for YouTube, where John and I take a look at a variety of different emails or messages or social media comments, and then we don't shy away from them. We tackle them head on. They can either be complimentary or critical or both, and have a discussion about them very quickly on YouTube. But for this particular supplementary show, we're doing that format for an standard audio release podcast. So that is going to be coming out this Thursday. Mission Log Prodigy, not really anything new going on right now, not until later on this fall, if you've seen the big schedule that has been making its way through social media. But we have recently released an interview with Ashley V. Robinson, myself, and the Hageman brothers talking about some soft spoilers and Prodigy, the new toy line that's going to be coming up. So if you haven't been able to check that out, make sure you listen to that too.
Oh, everybody's going to be able to get a Murph.
Yeah, right. And multiple. I just want an entire desktop of Murphs. Right.
That Murph could translate into so many interesting products. This is my consumer product brain kicking in.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I've already thought about Murph pencil erasers or pencil toppers. Obviously, Murph like some type of like gummy jelly baby, something like that. A jelly Murph. Oh yeah. They'll make you smile, hug him, or eat him. Doesn't matter, right? This is what Murph does. Also, on the Roddenberry Entertainment channel on YouTube, we have Mission Log the Orville, or Mission the Orville. And that is held by Captain Mike Richards and Jessica Lynn Verde. Make sure you listen to them for all of their catch-up work. And Mike's in the chat, so go ahead, Mike, and pimp the show, if you so please. And then one more thing, John and Holly next week have the distinct pleasure of doing, I think, is a Mission Log Live first, which is going to be the doubleheader, one of 3 weeks worth of doubleheaders as Discovery and season 2 of Picard overlap. So the format is going to be 90-minute show, 45 minutes apiece, covering Discovery for the first half of the show, ad break, and then Picard for the second half of the show. Then I come in on Picard's episode 2, and then John and Holly finish up on episode 3. And then not until May, I believe it's May 3rd, when the final episode of Picard and then the first episode of Strange New Worlds overlaps. Mm-hmm. But that's only for 1 week. So that's pretty exciting.
It's exciting that there's any crossover, though, because I remember when there was nothing. It's so exciting that we have I would rather it be super complicated and have too many shows going out at the same time than to have nothing. So
I mean, it's really dense out there. I mean, when you think about it, there are, in the span of this year, there will have been 5 on air.
Mm-hmm.
So there will be Star Trek Discovery, Star Trek Picard, Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Star Trek Prodigy, and Star Trek Lower Decks.
Yep, that's 5.
In 365 days. That's pretty exciting. So everyone who's a Star Trek fan, celebrate. This is the time to be a Star Trek fan. It's the best time to be a Star Trek fan. So let's jump into Star Trek Discovery with our recap for season 4's episode 10, The Galactic Barrier. After the events of Rubicon, i.e. after Tarka torpedoed the DMA, it's fair to say that there is a sense of urgency around the conference table at Federation headquarters. As Dr. Kovich briefs the DMA First Contact Task Force that Species 10C may now see any attempt at communication as an act of aggression. Adding to the already tense situation, Commander Stamets informs Burnham, President Rillick, and Admiral Vance that a new DMA controller will materialize and start harvesting within 12 hours. The clock is ticking as Rillick ramps up the tension even more as she informs Vance that she is joining the First Contact mission and needs his support for the Federation Vice President if she doesn't return. Meanwhile, on Book's ship, just as he's about to dump Tarka off on some random habitable planet, Tarka cites science as his defense with a defendable action in destroying one DMA controller, which now has pointed the way to Species 10C and their location beyond the Galactic Barrier. Book's also going to need Tarka's help to get through the barrier's deadly radiation field by modifying his ship's shields with programmable antimatter. And guess who's on board who knows where to find some? Back at Federation headquarters, Saru bids Commander Bryce a fond farewell and romantically addresses President Tarina, believing that this may be his one and only chance to express to her how he feels. Before she can respond, she is interrupted by an aide bearing immediate pressing matters. Captain Burnham makes the rounds and welcomes back Ensign Adira Tal, who is gushed over by Stamets, obviously proud of their contributions in upgrading Discovery's shielding. Later, Burnham and President Rillick suss out the mission pecking order and agree to stay in their lanes. With all preparations made, Discovery jumps away and arrived just a little outside of the Galactic Barrier, so it's back to regular old maximum warp, adding a little more time to their trip and just enough for Saru to awkwardly run into President Tarina, who replaced Navarre's ambassador at the very last minute before Discovery launched. Finally, approaching the Galactic Barrier, which causes several crew members to be naturally awestruck, it turns out that Discovery's shields, upgraded as they may be, can only withstand the Galactic Barrier's energy bombardment for a short time. So Stamets sciences out for them to piggyback a ride within special, stable spatial cells, which will shield them for a time as it rides through the current through energy currents on the other side. Simple, right? Oh, and just to make matters slightly worse, Burnham and Rillick are informed by Vance that the DMA controller has reappeared, this time in the Alpha Quadrant and in striking distance of Navarre and Earth. Meanwhile, on a barren and unknown planet, Tarka leads Book to his stash of programmable antimatter. The catch is, it's deep within an abandoned Emerald Chain camp, which itches Book's trigger finger as he now has Tarka at gunpoint, waiting for him to tell all, and Tarka obliges. Where they are was once a camp where he was held captive alongside Oros, a brilliant scientist and one with whom Tarka forged an unbreakable bond 10 years ago while doing the scientific bidding of Osira, or is it Osira? I always get that messed up. Osira and the Emerald Chain on the side. And Tarka and Oros combined their collective intellects to construct an interdimensional transporter, but their one and only attempt to power up the device failed, forcing Tarka to leave Oros behind, and he visits this planet now once a year ever since for any sign of Oros's escape. Back on Discovery, and after averting certain disaster from jumping from one spatial cell to another, all in the nick of time, they break through the Galactic Barrier's energy field and emerge safely on the other side and staring at space, the final frontier. Discovery.
You said the thing.
I did. I had to. It's so meta. Discovery's crew all share a special moment about their favorite special places on Earth. Even Stamets has a quiet, reflective moment with Adira, warning them that his overzealous pride and love towards them is simply that. President Rillick, after giving the matter careful thought and consideration, tells everyone on board about the threat that Earth and Navarre now face in the wake of the DMA's reemergence in the Alpha Quadrant. Naturally, this news unsettled a great many on board, President Tarina for one, who sought Saru's companionship as her own way of continuing their strained attempts at a conversation earlier. Back on Book's ship, Tarka has modified the shields with his programmable antimatter, and now they are ready to head straight for Species 10C and stop the DMA at all costs. Finally, Burnham and Rillick enjoy a quiet victory, both for the ship and for themselves, as they have grown from this experience of trusting and supporting each other when the time was right and when they needed to show the crew and all on board that their leadership is unified and unwavering. As they both stare off into the distance, whatever comes, Burnham declares that they have to succeed. The end. Epic.
Yeah.
Lots. Epic story.
Oh. There's portions of it that were epic. There was one part of it that I was very underwhelmed with.
Well, what do you want to start off with first? The exciting
Tarka's
part
story.
or the underwhelming part?
The underwhelming part is Tarka's story.
You think so?
I'm not moved by his motivation at all. Like, I get that he spent a lot of time with this person, Oros. This is the first time we see, like, we knew that he was talking about somebody that he had to get back to. Mm-hmm. And, earlier in the season, and I was waiting for this. I was waiting for an expansion on that story, and we finally got it. I'm just completely underwhelmed.
See, I dug it. I thought that this guy likes and cares about nothing and no one, right? And then all of a sudden, he actually likes and cared about someone. I think that's kind of huge.
That portion is fine. I wish that they had more time to tell. I guess what I'm complaining about is the writers, and just this one episode sort of like forcing that relationship.
I think that's what happens when that's like the one criticism you can make about like these really, really short series. It doesn't give a chance for like these special moments to breathe.
Right. I mean, obviously, like they went through something terrible together. They were prisoners together. They were being forced to, presumably being forced to create these, weapons of mass destruction and stuff. And they were actually making other things on the side. Mm-hmm. But I don't feel like the relationship was expanded upon enough to justify his motivation. I wish we had seen more of their relationship and more of them being on that planet and in that prison together.
We might.
I hope we do, because I'm very underwhelmed right now.
There is, here's what I don't want to have happen. I don't want to have, if you guys are fans of the movie Sneakers, you know where I'm going with this. And if you haven't seen it, then I'm spoiling it right now. it's the scene where like the two friends end up separating for a time, and they both become like brilliant in their own fields of like, of their own fields of expertise, and then one becomes like a force of good and the other one becomes like a force of evil. And I don't want Oros to be like the person who created the DMA. Like I don't want that. That's a trope. And I don't want that to happen. It's like, oh, I did this because it's the only way to get enough power, because this is what Tarka's going for. It's the only way to get enough power to power up his interdimensional transporter to get back home. Mm-hmm. Right. So is he using this DMA, this giant piece of technology, to do just that? Because Tarka more than one time said, that's enough power for me to power up the technology that we created. Right. So I'm like, if he's thinking about it, maybe Oros is thinking about it too.
I mean, I'm sure that we're gonna see more, but even somebody in the chat said, Carlos says Tarka should have had flashbacks each episode he was on. I don't disagree with that. I feel like
something small
over the course of a longer period of time with more information and more of them laying out this friendship that these two forged.
I like that we both had the same note that this is like the longest prologue in Star Trek history.
It was like 14 minutes or something.
It was 14 minutes and 9 seconds.
It was so long.
Like all of a sudden the credits pop up. I'm like, no, I thought I was already in the first act. That was really long. It was entertaining, but I was just caught off guard a little bit.
Yeah. I was like, well, we're already halfway through the episode and I'm just now seeing the opening credits. I was caught off guard too. I was like, oh, that was a long intro.
Sad goodbye to Bryce.
I see Paul is on hold. He is our first caller and he's
bring him in.
He's like yelling at me on mute.
I think that, our notes can wait. We have Paul Harvith. We have one of the Pauls. That's royalty. Paul's a royalty.
Well, he clearly has thoughts on what we are currently discussing, and bring him in.
Yeah, so make sure that you're not muted, Paul, as sometimes you are in our Discord.
I'm not muted.
So, all right. So
Holly,
jump right into it.
Holly, I just like the one time I find Tarka interesting. I'm finally coming around to your point of view.
Now we're opposite.
You dump on him. I'm like, I would love to watch an episode of this with you just to see if we'd throw things at each other.
I still think he's a super interesting character. I just don't think the expansion of this part of his story was handled well.
See, it's the only reason I find him vaguely interesting now. Before he was just a tool. Now he's like, oh, well, he's got a reason to be a tool.
Sure. Like they gave a little bit of context. It was so fast and felt forced. I'm like, why do I care about Oros? Like, I don't.
Yeah. I think that it's because I think that in the end, like this is episode 10, we have 3 episodes left. If they can justify where this relationship of his either could have gone or should have gone or will go, if in fact Oros is, the final antagonist of this story, then maybe in retrospect it may flesh out this particular episode. I don't know if it will. It might, but
so your thought is that he is the cause of all this consternation.
Oros?
I don't want it to be, but I have a feeling it just feels kind of transparent that a lot of hints are pointing towards that.
Yeah, I had that thought, and I'm like, the next episode preview, it shows the planet they're going to is blown up. So I don't know what that means, but sorry for that spoiler, but that's a pre-spoiler spoiler.
Well, we were earlier before the show started, so we're doing like all of these. Do we bring up the Galactic Barrier and where was Shakari and all of this? So it's not Shakari because Shakari is Galactic Center.
Yeah, we bring up the Galactic Barrier. I have one major issue with all of this crap. I want Dr. McDonald here, or I want John to ask her while she's on the boat, while this is fresh, why is this such a big issue now? They have to go through like an amoeba bubble to go out of. Why is it the galaxy's border supposed to be anything special?
Because you can't make it too easy.
There's nothing out there. I mean,
I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying from an entertainment perspective, like they can't just go, like it can't be that easy.
I know, but I brought up this, I put this in the notes before we got to it. And I said, I always found kind of like the linear wall-like representation of the Galactic Barrier strange because they could just fly over it. They literally fly through it and you can see kind of like the top and the bottom in scale of how big Discovery is to the Galactic Barrier's height. And I'm just like, we'll just fly over it. And then you're on the other side. Up.
Let's
right?
go. Let's go Z-axis.
Yeah, go Z-axis and then forward, right? So I'm like, it has to be like, I wish it wasn't defined. I wish it was just like they enter it and all of a sudden everything just goes haywire.
So is it like a pancake shape, or is it a circle around the specific? And what happens when two galaxies collide? Does it, it's scientifically
I'm no
unsound.
astrophysic.
But Captain Mike is pointing out that they are respecting canon, because this is not the first time we've seen the Galactic Barrier. This is the fourth time.
That's true.
My wife pointed out that there is a song about it when universes collide, right?
Is there?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And there's also NASA videos of what it could look like if we collide with Andromeda, which is apparently supposed to happen. Obviously not during any of our lifetimes, but
If we collide with Andromeda, then Rami comes on my ship.
it's a really
You guys get that out there? Yes, you
a
do.
really pretty dance when they collide. If you guys find that NASA video,
It is a cool video. I've seen.
I'm sure it's very violent, but from afar, it's very pretty.
You hear me, chat? Put those links in the chat. Do it. Do it for us. Do it for us.
Hey, did you guys give a Cronenberg shout out too? We need that shout out with the 3-hour tour or whatever the heck that was.
Was that Gilligan's Island reference?
That was Gilligan's Island. It was.
I put that in my notes. I was like,
Yeah.
if we're still referencing Gilligan's Island like 1,000 years from now, I'm gonna be
I'm just
super impressed.
He just sort of tucked it in there. I wonder if it was actually written or if it was ad lib. It would.
God, I hope it was ad lib.
It would suit him if it was.
It
ad
was
lib.
super tongue in cheek because I'm like, he goes, they're not going for a 3-hour tour. I'm like, really? Like, oh, that's the very 1960s of you, Cronenberg.
Cronenberg.
Yeah. So what else you got for us, Paul?
I got,
from,
the leader
jumping down Holly.
The leader
Holly Stewart.
detente. Well, I got it. It's Holly. She's only here once a week. She never shows up on Thursday, so we got to take our shot when we can, right?
Ooh,
that's what this is.
I'm sorry.
No, it's.
All right.
I love having the opposing view of someone, and I just could never figure out your intrigue with Tarka until today, and now.
Well, okay. So here's the thing that I think the reason why I was intrigued with him is because there was mystery, right? Like, where is this guy coming from? What are his motivations? And now I've learned the motivations, and I'm like, that's not enough for me.
Okay.
Bored.
What would you what would you do? What would you write for Mr. Tarka?
I would have expanded on that more. I probably would not have done it just in this one episode. I want to know more about the relationship and why Oros is so special to him. I mean,
but we still might get that though.
I hope we do, because I'm bored right now.
Because I personally think, and I don't want to speak out of turn, and I don't want to speak insensitively about this, but I think that he is in love with Oros, and Oros was in love with him. I think they were in love.
Oh, that would be great. That would give a lot more context. Also, like dark-haired Tarka.
Darka?
Darka. Yeah, dark-haired Tarka was a choice.
I was inspired. We have Alan in the waiting room. I was inspired with that pun as soon as he came on screen. So, you're giving me energy, chat. You're giving me energy.
Okay, so Holly now has earned a writer's hat.
Oh yeah. Holly, you got to do it in the traditional erudite fashion of Mission Log. It's like, let me put on my writer's hat. That just basically it triggers everyone who's fans of John and I when we do that to send us emails for Engage. So make sure you do that, and you'll get emails for Engage.
Congratulations, you now have a writer's hat reference
and a target on your back. Well done.
Forward the emails to me.
Anyway, as always, it's great to chat with you too. I see Alan's in the room. Good luck with Alan, and let's see how this thing finishes up. But first of all,
we're going to begin to that.
Yes,
soon.
we are. Looking forward to that too.
Should I wear my Picard sweater next week? My Picard sweater is a weird, deep cut. I don't even think my sweater was actually sold.
Yes, then wear it.
Then wear it.
I'll wear I'll wear it next week.
So then you can say to all the people out there that for whom you put your writer's hat on, it's like, you see this is what I write with. And this is why you can't, because I have the only one. Jealous.
Yeah. I think it's from, I don't know. I'll have to get it out.
That was a great face, by the way. Anyway. Anyway,
Paul's like screenshotting all of your expressions for memes later.
I wouldn't know how. I'm too old. Anyway.
Right,
see you guys later. Have a good week.
All right. You too.
Okay, bye.
Thanks for calling in, bud. Bye. Alan, we have Alan up next. What's
In the
happening?
lower
Alan?
decks. Always in the lower decks.
Oh.
Why?
Always
Dude,
in the
look at
lower decks.
I want
Well,
to actually see that couch of yours in their like rec room somewhere. They need like a really comfortable couch.
honestly, I mean, and believe me, if this wasn't a comfortable couch, I would be, I would have set up somewhere else. But it just works so well, and
I'm on my couch too.
I only have about 2 feet of actual green screen, so I have to put it up somewhere in order to get the effect to work.
Ah, okay,
So-
gotcha.
But yeah, it is great to be here, and while I enjoyed the recap, I think it might go better like this. Just sit right back and you'll hear a tale of a fateful trip that started from this Starfleet port aboard this old ass ship.
Listen up, people.
The mate was a mighty Kelpian, the skipper brave and pure. The delegates set sail that day for a 3-hour tour.
A 3-hour tour.
The 3-hour tour.
This is amazing.
Mhm.
Yes.
Is
I was
that
hoping
it?
to get the whole song done, but Paul was
That was enough for me to be impressed.
exactly.
If you enjoyed Alan's performance, make sure that you subscribe to Discord for the second half of that epic song, that
Oh, he's
epic
gonna write the rest of
remastering
it.
that he's done.
all
and,
for Patreon subscribers.
That is for a
That's-
special tier. So make sure that you go to www.patreon.com/missionlog and you'll be able to see the lyrics for the continuation of Alan's performance. Here
Oh
tonight.
yes.
Oh, and he thinks I'm kidding.
We're gonna hold you to it.
I am fully convinced that it's a thing that's going to happen, and luckily, I'm nearly done, but that's just a taste. That's just a little snippet of what you can enjoy.
Okay, so
by
let's go.
joining the
Let's
Mission Log Patreon.
let's go down this rabbit hole with the Gilligan's Island analogy. So let's see.
Sure.
So who's the professor?
Stamets.
Stamets?
Stamets. Then who would be? Okay, so are we going with the original Gilligan's Island, where it's like the professor and all the rest, or the professor with Ginger and Marianne?
Oh well, yeah. I've never been a fan of and all the rest. It's like
And all the rest. I'm like, come on, no, they're named actors. You got to give them credit, right?
it's like with our Star Trek crew. You can't just end all the rest to Scotty and Chekhov and Uhura and everybody. They let's give them their roses.
There you go.
Let's make it work for everybody. But yes, absolutely, Stamets is the professor. Did a movie star? Oh gosh. Well, I guess that would kind of be.
I know it's a tough one.
Gray is, and I'm
I was thinking Gray
With
and
all-
Adira as that couple.
What do you say, Chad?
with all due respect.
Who do you think of Ginger and Marianne out there? I'm going to throw it out to you too. Don't let Alan hang out here and just he's dancing like bacon on a hot plate right here.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm trying.
and Detmer.
There you go. And Detmer. Millionaire and his wife is clearly Kovich and Rillick.
Oh,
the howls.
Yes.
So she like co-ish, like honking like this, like no.
Oh
there's
yes,
some
of
howling,
course.
so, like say, lovey. So yeah, I know. Just evolved.
And
Should we get? I don't want to get serious because it's too fun to be serious right now.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. And then of course you've got. I guess calling Saru little buddy is a little. It's kind of an oxymoron, but it is.
God, he's so tall. What if I
Yes.
stood next to Doug Jones and his?
Like you're shorter than Sonequa, because I know Sonequa's shorter than most of the crew.
Yeah.
I'm shorter than Sonequa by several inches.
So how tall is Doug Jones out there? Chat, he's like
I've
over
met Doug
6
Jones.
and a half.
I met Doug Jones the year before he was cast to Discovery. He came to San Diego Comic-Con and he went to the 50th anniversary art show that we had like off-site. And he's very, very tall. Yes. But everybody is tall to me. Like people are like, oh, how tall was he? I'm like, I don't know. Everybody's tall to me. So I don't know how to describe that.
All right, Alan, hold your next thought. I just kind of want to jump in here. We're at the half of the hour on the show, and I just wanted to jump into a little bit on Patreon. Now, you've heard us all in chat. Chat, you know this by now, and if you haven't, I'm sorry, but I'm going to do this anyway. We talk a lot about Patreon. We talk a lot about Discord on the live show because we have so many fantastic friends, fans, subscribers that subscribe and support us through
songwriters,
Patreon.
apparently.
And then writers with writers' hats and so on and so forth. Very creative people in our Patreon and in our Discord. So Patreon at www.patreon.com/missionlog. That's where you can go to see how you'd like to support us through different tier packages of support. For as low as $1, you can join us there, and then you can get access to our Discord where we have all the fans doing all the fun, talking about all the Star Trek and food and movies and science fiction from the 1950s to now. Funny enough, the Galactic Barrier kind of makes an appearance in old science fiction and new science fiction. So what a concept, huh? So please, if you're so inclined, please support us there at patreon.com/missionlog. Take a look at what suits your needs, what suits you best. And then also please join us because that's where we're having a lot of fantastic discussions about Star Trek and so many other things. And we'd love to have you there. So back to Alan, who has...
There is a shocking amount of what is it? Blake Seven and the Thunderbirds.
Jerry Anderson TV.
Jerry Anderson TV. Yes, there is
sure.
there is a shocking amount of conversation. If you like either of those things, surprisingly, a Star Trek Discord is the place for you.
Totally.
So
right.
Yeah. No. There's a lot of good stuff. Great community, and yeah. But I have to say that although I think I enjoyed this episode as an episode of Star Trek, and it was nice to see the a little bit of the Tarka backstory, and finally get some context for everything that he's been pushing for. This did kind of feel a bit placeholdery in terms of episode structure and how things have been progressing throughout the course of the show. I liked I can remember the actor is Ozric Chow. I'm trying to remember the character name, but I thought I enjoyed that character. I thought that I don't think I hope he's not going to turn evil. But who knows?
Are you talking about Oros?
Oros, yes.
Yeah.
Just like the alien from a couple weeks ago, really nice makeup, really strong character design, and I thought they did
unknown
a good
alien,
job.
unknown alien species.
Unknown
too.
species.
We don't know what
I'm
species
all right
it
with
is.
that. Yep.
Right.
But yeah, just more proof that they can bring in and drop in a character like that, just sort of sight unseen, and put together a good episode, kind of focused around that character. And I kind of buy their little Shawshank friendship.
Oh, Shawshank. That's a good comparison.
Yeah, it's a little my friend Andy Dufresne.
Andy, that's
but
right.
Shawshank was a whole movie. This was one episode.
Every year, Taka would get a new poster, and
That's not bad.
yeah.
That's not bad. Good for you. Yeah, but I can see it that way. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to. I mean, I thought that there was a love story between them, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. I mean, there are stories out there about strong male friendships that withstand the test of time and space.
I'm fine either way. I just want to see more footage of them together to help me understand their bond.
Got it. Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen it before this moment. Just small things.
Yes.
I'm totally on board with the give us flashes as we go, as we could have gone. As it was fine getting it all here together in one place, but having hints of it scattered throughout the rest of the episodes, rather than him just saying, "Oh, I did," I have my reasons. I had a buddy. This was our plan.
Yeah, I think
maybe show us.
scattered references. I think that they could have done the scattered references and helped us understand that connection better, all the while still not, because part of the reason why I like Tarka is also because he was, we didn't know anything about him. He's very mysterious. And I think that they could have told us more about his backstory over the course of a longer period of time while also keeping him mysterious.
I would have liked to have seen him like react and maybe seeing that one symbol, that they shared together just out in the wild coincidentally. And it kind of triggered him, like all of a sudden he was like deep in this plan and he ran over to something to check something out and jeopardized what could have been really important just because he's like, he said, I thought that was something.
It's the thing that looks like phi, but not quite.
It's their special code thing. But I was like, yeah, that could have been neat. Like every once in a while, something just made him act off kilter. But I've kind of relegated myself to, I'm only going to get so much information out of 13 shows. And I know that, and I'm not saying this disparagingly because we've always talked about this in the past, and I don't think it's going to change anytime soon, but the majority of the way that Discovery has been crafted, or in terms of who gets the most airtime, isn't going to allow for a lot of side story. Let's be honest.
This is true.
I mean, I'm not saying that it's wrong. I'm just saying that if you want more side story, then they're going to have to break the mold of what's made Discovery popular so far. At least what they think has made Discovery popular so far, and that's focus on pretty much one character.
Yeah.
So if you want to see more characters, you're going to have to break that mold.
God, we keep just like getting rid of characters too. Like Bryce is all of a sudden they're just like, bye, Bryce. And I was like,
like, where's he going? Like, dude, right?
Why are we getting rid of him?
And they almost and the other guy is like fearing for his life. He's like, shoot, on my first tour of duty on Discovery, am I going to die? Like, I don't want to die.
Right?
I thought that was the guy. I think we've seen him before too, though. Was he around at the end of last year? I know they did something.
We've seen it before. Yeah.
I want to say so, yeah. But still, just to have it's another case where we've got a random crew member who's just back for very with little introduction. Yeah. Which again, you get just random red shirts in.
Well, to be fair, I mean, going all the way back to TOS, I mean, in Space Seed, I mean, Spinelli took one on the chin, for Khan, so he got an accommodation too, right? So, there is a tradition of having kind of like random crewmen doing great things.
Yeah.
David Takechi in the comments is saying, I think this is why they should bring back. I think they should bring back short tracks
or make longer seasons.
Or, I mean, listen, a one-off short track of a little bit more information of a lot of these supporting characters and a lot of these side stories I'd be down.
Yeah. And at least that's a show, even if it's just like, little snippets. It isn't like, some certain franchises that seem to expect you to read novels or comic books or spend $6,000 on a two-day vacation to understand various elements of canon.
Wait, hold on a second. You can't say that because Star Trek made you read Countdown before as the
Star
prelude
Trek,
to 2009.
But the difference is that if you didn't read Countdown, and if you didn't read the Khan series that they had after Into Darkness, like you still understood what happened, so you can still be a fan. But if you want more context, you can read those things. I mean, the Khan series after Into Darkness explains why he's suddenly white and British.
Yeah, no, it still didn't quite work for me. One last thing, Alan, because we had to cut John. John Arminio's coming up next. We had to cut him off my last show because we ran out of time. I want to give him a little bit more space.
No worries.
Yeah. So one last thought to leave the listeners with, and we're going to get it over to John.
Well, I mean, preposterous science or not, I get that we want to have the Galactic Barrier. I will say that I mentioned this on the official Discord earlier, but having it be Earth and Navarre again feels a bit like cheap heat in wrestling. To always have it be Earth, it's like, make it a threat that's a little bit more tailored to this season and this threat specifically, instead of always being, whoa, something could happen to Earth. Well, something could happen to Earth from any season. Let's think outside the box here a little bit.
Make it be Kronos. We don't know what the Klingons are doing.
It could be Bajor. I mean, I thought it would be cool if it was like
different
Bajor and it like popped up near Deep Space Nine.
I mean, sure,
be-
but we
there you
also have to be emotionally attached to what's going on,
Yeah.
and
So-
Earth is the most obvious. But again, we're
This
going
is
back
true.
to everything revolves around Burnham.
Earth.
Those are her two homes.
Yeah,
So
I
gotta
think, but
gotta put those in danger.
yeah.
The
Well, I
double
mean,
list of
but
jeopardies.
it could maybe it's something that threatens Rillick. She's part Bajoran, she's part Cardassian, and that would be a little bit of a switch up. And those are places that we theoretically should care about too. So,
I mean, theoretically, we should care about
well, yeah,
everybody, right? But
exactly.
emotionally compromised standpoint, we care about where the characters care about, and that's largely Earth and Navarre. So,
There you go.
eh.
All right. Well,
All right, Alan.
have a good rest of the show. It's been fun. We'll see how this goes.
All right, we have 3 episodes left, and let's hear what John has to say about tonight's episode, and maybe some speculation for the last 3 hours of Discovery. What's happening, man?
The 3-hour tour.
Well done.
That is called a callback.
This is why Holly has the writer's hat.
I would be a terrible writer. I'm not good at creative. No.
Oh,
Mm-mm.
I digress.
I can come up with ideas. I cannot write dialogue. John,
Yeah.
give me your thoughts.
Oof.
Help us.
I can't get away from how I think the core problem with some of the character building, like who is Oros and what is their relationship, is that Discovery is constantly in the mode of telling, not showing. So in this episode, we had Stamets and Gray have a little cute moment on the bridge, and then
No,
later
you're talking about Adira, right? Adira tall, not Gray. Gray's not there. Gray's the partner. Gray's still on Trill.
oh god yes, I'm sorry.
John put on his writer's hat for a
Oh,
second.
good grief.
go well.
I'm sorry. And then later we had a scene where Stamets says, I was trying to be a father figure to you.
Yeah.
And then when the president made a big speech on the bridge, and then later she told Burnham what that speech actually meant, when really shouldn't have all that information been carried in the first scene that was supposed to be pretty important in character building and plot development. And then when we see these flashbacks to Oros and the Emerald Chain Colony, we're supposed to then infer what their relationship was. So there seems to be some discordance into how Discovery is building its characters and how we're supposed to read into these people. And I was confused as to what I was supposed to think, because we're seeing these two characters in bed together with their arms wrapped around each other, looking at the stars, making maps and signs together in an incredibly intimate moment. But no, they're friends. And so I don't know what the show is doing.
I think that's a reasonable, reaction to it, because in my first viewing, I was like, I'm not sure how comfortable I am with making an assumption of their relationship. But at the same time, though, I always get to this thing where it always goes back to Garrick for me. When we were talking about Garrick in Deep Space Nine, we always bring up the sexual labeling of an alien being in a heterosexual relationship, or a homosexual relationship. And that's where I was with, how do I define what Tarka and Oros are coming to, and just in terms of relationship? And it's like, is it this or is it that? I'm like, it just is, right? They're both coming from a survivalist's point of view. They're trying to survive together. It's like they're the last two people on a life raft, and they're trying just to live. right? And there's a shared experience, in that dire situation that brings them together emotionally, because the trauma of what they're trying to survive is something that gives them a purpose for each other and a purpose to try and escape. So I think that there's a bond there. And then I've read stories about, survivors of war, survivors of that type of like extreme trauma, forging this bond that's unbreakable, no matter like what the circumstances may be. And that's also undefinable. You can't put a limitation on the loyalty and the love, whether it's a sexual love or just a undescribable bond. And I think that that's where we're trying to get at. I don't think that they were as successful as they attempted to be, Holly, much to your point, but I think that that's what they were trying to get at, which means I'm hoping that it's not Oros in the end that is the cause of this entire DMA thing, because he's trying to create the power source that Tarka referenced to power his interdimensional transporter, basically saying that he's annihilated civilizations in order for him to get those two people, through that transporter home to fulfill that promise. I mean, think about kind of like the entire chain of events that would lead up to that moment. Quajon being destroyed, other space, other galaxies, or not galaxies, but other systems being destroyed just to do that. That's pretty intense, I think, if I'm seeing the big picture correctly. And am I not?
Yeah, he would be the greatest monster in galactic history.
But would he be aware? Because again, like
Mhm.
they're under the impression that there's the possibility that whatever is causing this, Oros or otherwise, is not aware of the damage that they're actually doing.
Yeah.
Because they're literally just trying to find presumably something that they need to survive. And they're trying to mine this, whatever it is, whatever it does for them, right?
Right.
And they're just unaware. So I don't know. I'm on the fence about whether or not I think it being Oros would be a little bit too transparent, to your point, Norman.
Yeah, it's a little too Wizard of Ozzy for me. Like all of a sudden you pull this and
Yeah.
it's like, oh, there's Oros. Like, no, don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain, sending the DMAs out to do whatever, it would just seem too contrived for me. And I wouldn't be a letdown because it's already telegraphed. That's kind of like what I'm saying. And I don't want it to be. I want it to be something just completely different. I wanted it to be just random circumstances that you couldn't deal with, because sometimes the galaxy just hands you random stuff, right? Just that's the way it is, like weather, like tornadoes, like tearing through towns, skipping one town and completely like, destroying another town. It's just random happenstance. But that's I guess that's not this story. I'm always on a tangent. Sorry, John.
Yeah, but yeah, that's interesting. But I think we've established that it is an intelligence behind the DMA.
Right, the DMA in and of itself isn't random. There's an intelligence behind the technology of that.
Presumably 10C, which we still don't know what it is, and they're just trying to mine boronite for some reason.
And I agree with you, Norm, that I think it would be just a cop-out if it turned out to be Oros, because then it would just be, not even related to species 10C, if I'm understanding you correctly. Like that, right now, I think one of the benefits of this plot is that there is a great mystery beyond the galactic barriers as what is the species and what do they need boronite for. Right. But if it was just like some guy who was in jail that we've seen before, it would be incredibly disappointing.
Yeah.
Like one of the things that I want from Star Trek is like to explore the unknown. And if it's just some scientist, that would be a failure of creativity, I think.
Oh, and we are where no one has gone before. I mean, she says it. She said the thing in her little speech on the bridge.
So what were those amoebas?
They're spatial cells.
Okay.
Yeah, they're essentially hot, like they're plot armor. That's what they are. It's plot. I mean, let's be honest, people. I'm sorry, chat. I know you're probably getting fired up about it, but they really needed like to invent drama so that Discovery had something interesting visually to go through, because and so they went through stable molecule that allowed it to go through eddies and the currents and the unstable energy of the galactic barrier until they couldn't, which means they had to find the next unstable molecule and then find the next one. And in between the spaces between unstable molecules to stable molecules is where the Discovery was getting torn up and their shields were getting depleted because.
But I think, I know that tech in the tech and inventing science is a trope of all of science fiction and especially Star Trek. But I think when we have several episodes where we know the goal is to get beyond the galactic barrier, when these sorts of things are invented, we have a lot of time to think about them. Mm-hmm. And it just, especially because we know that they're like in the real world, there is no galactic barrier. I know that conflicts with canon, but it just, at least for me, it gives me more time to think about the ridiculousness of these cells that don't exist in real life. Like I don't know. I'm sorry.
Well, what I don't get, here's the strange thing. What I don't get is that, Kovich, he can bring up a Gilligan's Island reference from thousands of years ago, but no one brings up Gary Mitchell and Dr. Elizabeth Daner and how they were affected by the galactic barrier as a matter of Starfleet record.
Yeah.
Right. Like, doesn't anyone want to bring up that history? It's like, has the Starfleet ever approached the galactic barrier before? Let me tell you about Gilligan's Island. I mean, come on. Right.
Yeah, that is a problem, I think, with doing meta stuff in Star Trek, that trying to measure the in-universe knowledge of history that we know is always sort of dicey. But in this specific instance, this episode is definitely referencing the original series.
Oh, absolutely. But they're not acknowledging that you think about TOS, The Naked Time, versus TNG, The Naked Now, when they were like, this happened to the Enterprise back in the day.
And we've seen the Enterprise on Discovery.
Yeah.
So we already have connective threads to the original series in this show. So to not talk about it at all.
Burnham's brother was on board. Not only do they presumably have, hopefully records survived the burn and it not being really functional for however many years it was, but you have a personal. Did Spock just never tell stories about the missions that they were on? Does Burnham know nothing about his career?
Yeah, presumably she did the 29th century of a Google search on Spock and maybe read up on his service record once. I
got to bring up a couple things that our producer Earl has brought up in chat here. So one, prediction, Grudge becomes an Esper. That's canon.
Where is Grudge?
Throw that in the chat.
Where's Grudge right now? Where is she?
How we looked at her eyes recently.
Oh God.
Shouldn't Grudge be tormenting Tarka
every day?
Wouldn't they hate each other? That's what I want to see.
I don't think she's on book ship though. Isn't she on Discovery?
Okay. I don't know. Where is Grudge?
I don't know. Both ships. I'm pretty sure she's on Discovery. Both ships are under extreme danger. And if both or either of them blow up, I'm like, where's the cat? It's the whole. I just don't want to see the dog die.
Earl also brings up a good point. And I'm wondering if we can suss this out. He said, didn't Gary Mitchell happen after Disco left the 23rd century, though? They'd only know whatever Starfleet has on file. Well, yeah, right. But Starfleet has Gary Mitchell on file, right? And that carries 900 years into the future. So, right. All that information would catch up with them. I mean, did the Federation?
Oh, yeah. She wouldn't have been personally told about that because it was before.
No, but in that meeting room, there were there's the president, there was Kovich, there was 5 other officers.
Yeah, presumably they would have files, but to my point, being didn't Spock ever tell stories about his missions? She left before that, so she would not have heard his personal stories. But presumably, they should have files. I mean, that's how they figured out what was going on in the Naked Now, because they looked up Starfleet files. Yeah.
So, John, what we're looking at in the galactic barrier are giant poly water molecules that will make everyone go crazy in a way. That's what we're looking at.
Yeah, is that the next meta episode? We're gonna have Naked again once we pass the galactic barrier.
The Naked Now, the Naked Time, the Naked Gun. Who knows? I don't know.
The Naked Gun.
Right. So yeah, it's entering this interesting, like folding in on kind of like the referential in joke space. But here's one thing that I want to ask you, and I want to ask chat too, Holly and John. Have we gotten to a point as Star Trek fans, because we've seen it all, and we've experienced most, where we can't separate ourselves from the creatives that are trying to tell the story for an audience that has never seen Star Trek? You know, I mean, is there a point where we can't kind of, I'm not saying that we're gatekeeping in any way, but there is a point where there is an entire audience that will never get these references, and they're using them maybe to hook them into trying to look back in Star Trek's history to be interested in Star Trek's past without jeopardizing the here and now of their storytelling in the future. So is that something to consider?
I think there's a fine line happening in terms of, I mean, obviously like Lower Decks in terms of their references, or it's blatant, right? Like those are blatant deep cut references.
Well, Spock is for sure. I mean, that's as pretty, erroneous as it gets for, blatant callbacks, throwbacks.
Well, I think in terms of storytelling for Discovery, like you said that they're presuming that they're telling story to people that don't know Star Trek, and I think they're trying to keep in mind that they're storytelling for a new generation of Star Trek fans, that maybe the references might pique their interest and they'll go back and watch the old series. But they're also trying to tell the story in a way in which the references are not completely throwing people off in terms of not understanding what's going on if you've never seen Star Trek before. But I think they're also aware that like largely the people that I would say like 50% of the audience is existing Star Trek fans that would understand that stuff and appreciate continuity and references and sort of respect to previous episodes and characters.
Well, I think that's their hope, but I think they also run the risk of like what we're talking about, like, can't they be more creative? And like, well, I think they are being creative for a fan base that has never been exposed to the material that we have seen, in the history of our long tenure as being Star Trek fans.
Well, I mean, it's a rough thing to have to do, right? To kind of cater to two different audiences.
And even when you're catering to the long-term audience who's seen hundreds of hours of Star Trek, there's always the risk of when you incorporate those older storylines or vintage characters, those fans will then get up in arms about what are you doing to these characters that I loved? Like, though that person wouldn't act that way, or that's not how the story went in the original series.
Right.
And so you're really playing with, I think you're burning the candle at both ends, trying to appeal to veterans Star Trek fans.
I think in a lot of ways, the writers are sort of in a lose-lose scenario, right?
Yeah,
because there's going to be at least one group of fans who are not terribly happy with decisions that were made and choices that were made for characters or plots or storylines or references. So
that was why I was so happy with Prodigy. Like, I thought it did such a great job of just introducing new characters. I thought it felt like a shonen manga, but in the Star Trek universe. So I thought it was fun and introduced a ton of new characters and new canon. And I know it was certainly not for like me personally, but I thought it was a blast. And I'm waiting for Discovery to blast me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that this season overall so far has, I think, been closer towards what I wanted Discovery to be at the very beginning, like a little less I don't know, maybe a little less reinventing the wheel, with the things that we saw with the Klingon Empire, et cetera, and a little bit more kind of like literally looking future forward in terms of, what's out there. Let's go explore. Let's not be holding to a lot of what we think is important to the fan base, especially our reinterpretations of that and defending those reinterpretations ad nauseum, et cetera. Ergo, Spock, right? Or the Klingons.
Yeah, trying to predict what the fan base wants is, a losing game. Like you're never going to give the fans what they want by trying to like predict their wants and needs.
Well, it's also because our fan base and a lot of fan bases are not like a singular entity. They
Yes,
don't all
yes.
want the same thing.
Yeah.
So somebody is going to be unhappy
Yeah.
and very vocal about it because now social media is a
Yeah.
thing.
Right.
And listening to negative social media talk is the loudest, most negative voices are always going to be the ones you see and hear first. And you do not want to take your cues from them either.
I mean, I tried to, in these last couple of minutes, I tried to describe kind of like my reaction to Discovery with people who are interested in the podcast. They didn't know that I was doing a podcast with their Star Trek fans, and they asked me about the new show and what I thought. And I said, you know what? I enjoy it for the attempt that it's trying to bring, to me at least. When I say attempt, is because I don't think it's 100% successful, appealing to me as a fan. But there are fans out there that hinge on its every episode, on it's the messages like Paul and Vera when they see that representation, on the show, or with characters that they have so much personal, meaning with. So if that's that Star Trek for somebody, that is a success, in my opinion. Right. So it can't be everything for everybody, but in the grand panorama of 55 years of Star Trek, there's going to be a Star Trek for everyone. Star Trek Prodigy. I never thought in a million years that I would be on board with Star Trek Prodigy.
I think it's so funny that like the most vocal fans that I see of are adults, and that's not what it was. Yeah. It's not who it was made for.
I know. So unfortunately, we've run out of time. John, I hope I was able to give you a little bit more due than I was able to last time.
No, I appreciate it. And just real quick, I know I spent my time criticizing this show, but to your point, like characters like Saru or Colbert, like I'll follow those characters like to the ends of the galaxy. I think they're amazing.
Yeah. No, I think Saru is probably one of the best characters, I think, in any series. He's a great ambassador to this is what a well-written, well-developed, and well-acted character is, on a series. And that's why he stands out. I mean, I think that's why he stands out. All right, John, thanks for calling in, and appreciate your time. Appreciate you being here. All righty. See you next time. All right, Holly, let's wrap this one up. I mean, I always, at the very beginning of the hour, keep looking at, our notes and keep looking at the amount of callers that we have and looking at the chat. I'm like, how are we going to fill 60 minutes of time from second one to now? And I guess we have.
I'm never concerned. I'm never concerned we're going to find things to talk about to fill the time.
Well, next week, folks, buckle up because we're going to have an extra 30 minutes worth of
marathon.
Show. That's right. Where Holly and John are going to be talking about Star Trek Discovery, Episode 11, and Star Trek Picard, Season 2, Episode 1, the premiere. So that's a lot of Star Trek, back-to-back, doubleheader for all you sports baller fans out there. All right, what do you say we wrap this one up and bring it home? Holly, what do you say?
Go for it.
All right, so Mission Log Live is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment. Technical production on Mission Log and Mission Log Live provided by Emerald Earl Green. Be sure to visit podcast.roddenberry.com for the latest from Roddenberry Podcast. If you'd like to support Mission Log directly, give us a look at patreon.com/Mission Log. Thanks to Holly for enduring all of my jokes. You're a trooper. You're a champ. And thank you for putting on your writing hat tonight. And thank you for being here on Mission Log Live. Thanks to all of you in chat. Thanks to all of you who are going to join us later. Stay safe. Stay healthy. We look forward to talking Disco and Picard with you all next week.
This is a Roddenberry podcast. For more great podcasts, visit podcast.roddenberry.com.